The Strange Custom. Jack had always been curious about the stars and the worlds beyond Earth. He was not a soldier or a scientist, just a traveler who wanted to see what no one else had seen. His small ship landed on the planet called Vera, a world filled with blue skies, silver trees, and glowing rivers that hummed softly in the night. The moment he stepped out, he felt hundreds of alien eyes watching him. The people of Vera looked human in shape, but their skin shimmered like polished stone, and their eyes glowed faintly as if carrying the light of their world inside. Jack smiled nervously and waved. The crowd whispered, their voices rising like wind moving through leaves. He tried to calm himself, reminding his mind that he came here as a guest. He carried nothing but kindness and a small bag of food rations from Earth. He hoped to make a good impression. But little did he know that one small act would change everything. As Jack walked through the market square of the alien city, he saw stalls glowing with strange fruits and crystal-like breads. Children laughed and ran between the stalls. Vendors called out in voices that rang like music. He felt both amazed and lost in this beauty. Then he noticed her. Lyra stood near a fountain made of living stone, her hair like liquid silver flowing down her shoulders, her eyes deep with curiosity. She was not dressed like the others. She wore a cloak of dark blue that shimmered in the sun. Jack's heart skipped a beat, not because of beauty alone, but because she looked directly at him without fear. He felt his stomach growl, embarrassed. He pulled out a small pack of bread from Earth, a simple thing, nothing special back home. He broke off a piece, and without thinking, he walked closer to Lyra. He smiled awkwardly and held out the bread. She blinked, her glowing eyes widening. "Would you like some?" he asked, his voice gentle. "Tea." The moment the bread touched her hands, the crowd went silent. Every whisper stopped, every eye turned to them. Jack froze, confused. Lyra's lips trembled as she looked at the bread, then at him. Her breathing quickened as though she could not believe what had just happened. "Human," she whispered, her voice shaking with both shock and wonder. "You just proposed to me?" Jack blinked, his hand still half raised. "Proposed," he repeated. No, I was just being polite." But the way the crowd gasped and the way some of them fell to their knees made his blood run cold. Lyra's voice grew louder, trembling. "On Vera, to share food is to bind your soul. It is not friendship, it is not kindness. It is a vow of union. Human, you just asked me to be your mate for life." Jack's heart pounded. He wanted to laugh, but no sound came. He wanted to explain, but his throat closed. Around him, the crowd began to chant, their glowing eyes fixed on him, some in joy, some in suspicion. Lyra's family appeared from the crowd, tall figures with cloaks of silver and blue. One of them placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, their voice ringing out, "So it is true. The outsider has chosen our daughter." "I didn't choose anything," Jack protested, panic rising in his chest. "I was just hungry. I was just sharing." But no one seemed to listen. To them, the act was sacred, the bond unbreakable. Lyra's gaze softened, though confusion clouded her eyes. She held the bread as if it were the most precious jewel in the universe. "You cannot take it back, Jack. Not here, not now," she whispered, her voice almost pleading. "You do not understand what you have done, but the vow has been made." Jack stumbled back, his mind racing. How could a piece of bread turn into a marriage vow? How could a simple gesture trap him in something so huge? The air around him felt heavy, the crowd's chanting growing louder. He looked at Lyra again, her silver hair glowing under the twin suns, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. He realized then that he was caught in something far bigger than himself, something that could not be undone with words alone. The drums began to beat from the far end of the square, deep, heavy sounds that shook the ground. The crowd parted as robed figures appeared, their faces stern, their voices echoing. "The ceremony must begin. The human has spoken with his hands. The bond must be sealed." Jack's heart thundered. He never meant for this, never dreamed of this, yet here he was standing in front of an alien crowd who believed he had just promised his life to one of their own. Lyra whispered one last time, her voice trembling with both fear and fate. "Jack, you must come with me. Everything has changed now." Jack swallowed hard, knowing his life would never be the same again. The alien bond. Jack followed Lyra through the glowing streets, his heart pounding like a drum. He did not want to follow, but every step behind her felt like stepping deeper into a trap. The crowd trailed them, chanting, whispering, staring at the human who had proposed. His mind screamed to run, but his legs obeyed her quiet pull. They entered a great hall carved from crystal. The walls pulsed with faint blue light as if alive. Rows of alien elders sat upon stone thrones, their eyes glowing brighter than the others. They all looked down at Jack with a mixture of awe and suspicion. Lyra stood beside him, clutching the bread like a sacred relic. The eldest among them, his skin like black marble streaked with silver veins, leaned forward, his voice deep and echoing. "So it is true. The outsider has chosen. The vow is spoken. The bond must be honored." Jack's voice cracked. "Wait, I didn't choose anything. On Earth, sharing food is just kindness. It is not a vow. It is not marriage." The hall filled with gasps. The elders murmured in disbelief. One slammed his staff against the floor and the sound echoed like thunder. "On Vera, to share food is to give half of your life, to open your soul, to promise union beyond death. Human, your words cannot erase the act." Lyra looked at him with conflicted eyes, her lips trembling. She whispered so only he could hear. "Jack, they will not understand. You cannot take it back. The bond is sacred. If you deny it, they will see it as betrayal. They will punish you, or worse, punish me." Jack froze. The thought of her suffering because of his mistake sent a chill down his spine. He wanted to scream that this was madness, but the way the elders stared made his words die in his throat. The elder raised his hand, and the hall fell silent. "Then let it be witnessed. The bond between Lyra of the Silver Line and Jack of the Human Stars shall begin. From this moment, they are bound." The crowd outside roared in approval, their voices shaking the crystal walls. Jack felt dizzy. He had gone from traveler to husband in the span of hours, and he had no choice in it. As the crowd dispersed, Lyra pulled him aside into a smaller chamber lit by glowing orbs. She faced him, her eyes filled with something he could not read, fear, hope, and sadness all at once. "Jack," she said softly, "I know you did not mean it, but our people believe in fate. They will not release you. They think you are chosen. If you resist too hard, they may take it as an insult to our gods." Jack pressed his hands to his face. "I didn't come here to marry. I came here to explore. I don't even know you, Lyra." Her lips curved in the smallest of smiles, though her eyes still trembled. "And yet, now you are tied to me. By law, by spirit, by the will of my people." She paused, her voice softening. "But I will not hold you if you do not wish it. I do not want a bond born of fear." Her honesty shook him more than the chanting crowd had. She looked more human in that moment than alien, a woman trapped by the weight of her world's traditions, just as he was. Before Jack could answer, a sudden shout came from outside the chamber. The ground shook as heavy boots stormed in. A tall alien warrior, armored in plates of iron blue, entered with a glare that could cut stone, his voice a low growl. "No, this cannot be." Lyra stiffened, her hand tightening on the bread she still held. "Corin," she whispered, her voice breaking. The warrior's glowing eyes locked on Jack. "Human, you dare steal her from me. She was mine to claim, mine to vow, and you, outsider, you think a piece of food can take her away." Jack's breath caught, confusion mixing with fear. "I didn't steal anyone. I didn't even know." He tried to explain, but the warrior slammed his spear into the ground. The crystal floor cracked under its force. "The bond must be tested," Corin thundered. "If you are truly her mate, prove it or die," Lyra cried out. "No, Corin, this is madness." But the warrior's rage drowned her words. Two guards dragged Jack forward, their grip iron-like. Jack struggled but was powerless. He looked at Lyra in desperation. "What is happening?" Her voice trembled. "On Vera, when a bond is challenged, the rival has the right to test it through trial. Corin will not rest until he breaks you." Jack's heart raced. But I don't even know the rules. I can't fight him. I can't win. Lyra's eyes locked with his, her voice soft but firm. You must survive, Jack. For if you fall, the bond breaks, and so will I. The guards pulled him out toward the arena, the cheers of the crowd already rising like a storm. Jack stumbled, fear burning in his chest. He had never been more aware of the truth. He was alone, unarmed, and about to fight for a marriage he never wanted, in a world he did not understand. The Arena of Honor. The arena was carved into the heart of the city, a great circle of crystal walls that rose high into the twin suns. Thousands of aliens filled the eats, their glowing eyes watching with hunger for spectacle. Chants of Corin's name shook the air, the sound like thunder rolling over stone. Jack stumbled into the center, his breath ragged. The guards shoved him forward, leaving him in the open circle. The ground beneath his boots shimmered faintly as if alive. Lyra stood at the edge, her hands trembling as she clutched the bread that had caused all this chaos. Her face pale, but her eyes locked on Jack, desperate. Across the arena, Corin entered, towering and armored in plates that reflected the suns. His spear gleamed with sharp crystal edges. His voice roared, "This outsider thinks himself worthy. Today Vera shall see him broken, and her vow restored to me." The crowd cheered wildly, some stamping their feet, others beating drums that made the air vibrate in Jack's chest. Jack's throat was dry, his hands shook. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his plain clothes and a racing heart. He turned to the elders seated high above. "This is insane. I'm not a warrior. I never agreed to this." But the eldest raised his staff, his voice booming. "The trial of honor is sacred, human. If the bond is true, fate will protect you. If not, the bond shatters in blood." The sound of a gong echoed. The duel had begun. Corin charged, his spear cutting the air with deadly precision. Jack barely rolled aside. The weapon slammed into the ground, sparks flying. The crowd roared in approval. Jack scrambled to his feet, heart pounding. He knew he could never match Corin's strength. One strike would kill him, Lyra shouted from the edge, her voice breaking through the noise. "Jack, don't fight his way, fight your way." Her words clung to his mind. Humans were not stronger, but humans were clever, adaptable, unpredictable. Corin attacked again, swinging his spear wide. Jack ducked under and grabbed a handful of sand from the ground. He flung it into Corin's glowing eyes. The warrior roared in rage, blinded for a moment. The crowd gasped. Never had they seen such a dishonorable but effective move. Jack darted back, his chest burning, his mind raced. He had to use everything around him. He noticed the ground shimmered more brightly where Corin's spear struck, cracks glowing faintly. The arena floor was alive with energy. Jack remembered Lyra's words, "Fight your way, not his." He ran toward the far edge, Corin charging after him, spear raised. At the last second, Jack leapt aside. Corin's weapon slammed into the floor. The crack burst open with a surge of light. The force knocked Corin back, his armor rattling. The crowd screamed in disbelief. Jack staggered, panting. "This place reacts to force, doesn't it?" he muttered under his breath. Corin snarled, wiping the sand from his eyes. "You fight like a coward!" Jack spat back with trembling courage. "No, I fight to live." The battle raged on. Corin swung and Jack dodged, always moving, never letting the warrior pin him down. Each time Corin's spear struck the floor. Jack lured him into creating more cracks, the glowing fissures spreading across the arena floor like a web. Lyra's eyes widened with realization. She whispered, "He is turning the arena against Corin." Finally, Jack stopped in the center, breathing hard. Corin saw him still and rushed in for the kill, spear aimed for Jack's chest. At the last second, Jack dove aside. Corin's full weight drove the spear into the largest crack. The arena floor erupted with blinding light. The ground beneath Corin collapsed, swallowing him into a pit of fire and crystal shards. His scream echoed before silence fell. The arena went still. Thousands of glowing eyes stared in shock. The human had won, not with strength, but with cunning. The gong sounded again, signaling the end of the trial. Jack lay on the ground, chest heaving, his body shaking from exhaustion. Lyra rushed forward, falling to her knees beside him, her hands gripping his shoulders. "You did it, Jack. You survive." The eldest elder rose, his voice echoing across the silent arena. The bond holds, the outsider has proven worthy, by fate and by trial, the vow stands true. The crowd erupted into cheers, chants of Jack's name now mixing with Lyra's, but Jack only felt the weight crushing his chest. He had survived, but at what cost? He was now even deeper bound to a world he did not understand. Lyra helped him to his feet, her eyes shining not just with relief, but with something else. Something that frightened him more than Corin's spear had, a kind of trust, a kind of hope. As the crowd cheered, a shadow moved among the elders. One of them leaned close to another and whispered, their voices low but heavy. If the human truly binds with her, everything will change. Alliances, power, the old ways will not survive. Jack felt it in his bones. The fight was only the beginning. Something far greater was coming, and he was standing at the center of it, the rival claim. The arena still echoed with the chants of victory, but Jack felt no triumph. His body ached, his throat burned, and his mind was drowning in the weight of what just happened. He had defeated Corin not with strength but with human cunning, yet instead of freedom he was now shackled tighter to this alien world. The elders guided him and Lyra into the council chamber. The walls glittered with living light, the air heavy with expectation. The eldest elder spoke, his voice calm but sharp. Human, you have proven the bond through trial. You are no longer outsider. You are part of Vera, and your vow to Lyra stands. Jack shook his head, frustration boiling. I didn't vow anything. I never agreed. I never meant for this. His words felt small in the chamber. The elders stared with glowing eyes that held both fear and greed. Another elder, cloaked in gold, leaned forward. Perhaps you did not mean it, but meaning is nothing. Only action matters, and your action has shaken the old ways. Some will celebrate, some will seek to destroy you, but none will ignore you. Lyra touched Jack's arm gently, her voice soft. Jack, you must be careful with your words. They twist them, they use them, and once spoken they cannot be taken back here. Jack turned to her, his voice low. Lyra, I can't do this. I can't be part of something I don't understand. She held his gaze, sadness flickering in her silver eyes. And yet you are already part of it, whether you wish or not. The chamber doors burst open. A group of armored guards entered, leading a tall alien noble dressed in black crystal robes, his face hard as stone, his voice a deep growl. This is a farce. The human cannot hold the bond. It was trickery, weakness, dishonor. The council stiffened, murmurs rose. Lyra's face went pale. She whispered, That is Lord Varen. He is dangerous, more dangerous than Corin ever was. Varen stepped into the center, his eyes burning into Jack. The human must prove more than survival. He must prove loyalty. He must prove worth to Vera itself. Otherwise, this bond is nothing but a mockery. Jack's chest tightened. I already survived your trial. What more do you want? Varen sneered. Survival is not enough. Bonds are not for games. If he is to claim her, he must give something of himself, something he cannot take back, a sacrifice. The council erupted in arguments, some agreeing, some furious. The eldest silenced them with his staff. The hall trembled, his voice heavy. If sacrifice is demanded, then it must be blood or truth. Let the human decide. Jack froze, sweat breaking across his forehead. Blood or truth, what does that mean? Lyra gripped his hand tightly, whispering urgently. Blood means pain, injury, giving part of your life to seal the bond. But truth means revealing your soul, something they can use against you forever. Jack's mind spun. Either way he was trapped, give blood or give secrets. Both would bind him deeper. Both would strip him of freedom. The council pressed closer, voices rising. Choose, human, blood or truth, sacrifice or honesty, vow or betrayal. Jack closed his eyes, the image of Earth flickering in his memory, the blue skies of home, the smell of rain, the laughter of people who never knew these alien customs. He thought of why he left Earth, the emptiness he carried, the search for meaning, and now here he was being forced into a marriage by bread and trial. His heart felt heavy, but strangely alive. He opened his eyes, meeting Lyra's gaze. If I give them blood, they will see me as weak. If I give them truth, They will know I have nothing to hide. Maybe that's the only strength I have left." Lyra's lips parted, fear in her eyes. "Be careful, Jack. Once spoken, truth cannot be forgotten here. It becomes law." Jack stepped forward, his voice shaking but strong enough to echo. "Then hear my truth. I never came here to marry. I never came to rule or to conquer. I came here because I was lost, because I thought the stars would give me something Earth could not. I shared food because it was kindness, because it is what humans do. We share when we see hunger, not to bind, not to own, but to connect." The hall fell silent. The elders stared at him as if struck by lightning. Varen snarled, "Lies, weakness disguised as words." But some of the elders leaned forward, their glowing eyes softened, whispers rising. One of them murmured, "Perhaps the human way is not weakness, but something we have forgotten." Lyra's hand trembled in his, her voice breaking. "Jack, you have done more than survive. You have planted doubt in their hearts." But Varen's face twisted with rage, his voice like venom. "If words are your strength, human, then words shall be your doom. I will not rest until your bond is broken and your blood stains this hall." Jack felt the weight of every glowing eye on him, some filled with hope, others with hatred. He realized then that his survival was no longer just about him or Lyra. It had become a war between old tradition and something new, something fragile but powerful. Lyra whispered, her voice shaking with both fear and courage. "Jack, they will not stop. This is bigger than us now." And in his chest, Jack knew she was right. The human way. The city of Vera did not sleep that night. Torches and glowing crystals lit the streets as crowds gathered to whisper of the human who spoke truth instead of blood. Some called him brave, others called him cursed. But all knew one thing: the outsider had shaken the roots of their traditions. Jack lay awake in a chamber given to him by the council. Its walls shimmered faintly like starlight, but he felt no peace. Every sound outside made his heart race. He could still hear Varen's promise of blood. He could feel the weight of thousands of glowing eyes waiting for him to fail. Lyra sat beside him, her silver hair flowing like liquid moonlight. She whispered, "You changed something today, Jack, but you must understand. Change here is dangerous. Words may inspire some, but they also make enemies." Jack sighed, his voice low. "I don't want to be a symbol. I don't want to fight their wars. I only wanted to see the stars, to find something new." Lyra looked at him, her eyes soft. "Perhaps that is why fate brought you here, not to conquer, but to remind us of something we lost, that bonds are not chains, but choices." Before Jack could answer, the door burst open. A young alien boy stumbled in, his chest heaving, his glowing eyes wide with terror. "Please, help! They are hurting the weak in the lower district. They say the bond is cursed. They say Lyra betrayed the old ways." Lyra rose instantly, fury flashing across her face. "They dare attack the poor to punish me." She turned to Jack. "Come, you must see what your words have done." They rushed through the narrow streets to the lower district, a place where the houses were made of broken stone and the light of the crystals barely reached. There, a group of armored men dragged families out into the open, shouting that the bond between human and Varen's daughter was an abomination. Jack's blood boiled. He could not stand by. He stepped forward, his voice carrying through the crowd. "Stop. This is not justice. This is cruelty." The men sneered, their leader pointing at him. "Here is the human who speaks lies, who poisons our people, who dares call himself bonded. His words bring weakness, and weakness must be purged." The guards advanced, spears glowing. Jack's heart pounded. He had no weapon, but he remembered the arena, remembered Lyra's words, "Fight your way, not theirs." He raised his hands high, his voice firm. "If you want me, take me, but do not hurt them. They are innocent." The guards hesitated. The crowd murmured. No one expected him to offer himself so freely. Lyra's eyes widened in shock. "Jack, no," she whispered. The guard leader snarled. You are no warrior, no elder, you are nothing. Jack stared back, his voice strong. Maybe I am nothing, but humans protect the weak, even if it costs us everything. That is what makes us strong. The crowd gasped. Some of the poor fell to their knees, clutching their children, their glowing eyes filled with tears. An elder who had followed in secret watched from the shadows, his expression unreadable. The guards moved forward, but Jack stepped closer, closing the distance, his voice cutting through the night. Strike me if you must, but know this, every strike against me proves my words are true, that you fear kindness more than you fear strength. For a moment, the air was still. Then one of the younger guards lowered his spear, his voice trembling. Perhaps the human speaks truth. The leader hissed at him, but hesitation spread like fire. The crowd began to murmur, some cheering Jack's whir. As others whispering in awe, the guards faltered, their unity breaking. Lyra stepped forward beside Jack, her voice clear. You see, he is not like us, and yet he is more. He fights without blades, he wins without blood, and that is why I stand with him. The crowd erupted, chants rising not of fear, but of hope. The guards, shaken, withdrew, dragging their leader away, his eyes filled with venom as he glared at Jack. As silence fell, the poor of the district gathered around Jack, touching his hands, whispering thanks, their voices trembling with emotion. Human, protector, bond, true. Jack felt overwhelmed. He had not fought with strength, but with words, with courage, with the simple human instinct to protect, and somehow that had shaken the city more than any duel could. Later, as they walked back to the chamber, Lyra looked at him with new light in her eyes. You did not just survive tonight, Jack. You became something my people have not seen in centuries, a leader born of compassion. Jack shook his head, his voice quiet. I'm not a leader. I'm just a man trying to survive. Lyra smiled faintly. And that is why they will follow you. But in the shadows, Lord Varen watched from the rooftops, his face twisted with rage, his voice a low growl. If words are his weapon, then I will bury him in silence. If compassion is his strength, then I will turn it into his weakness. Jack felt the storm was far from over. His victory tonight had only painted a larger target on his back, and the real battle was just beginning. The true choice. The council chamber glowed brighter than ever, the crystal walls humming with strange energy as if the city itself was awake. The elders sat in a great circle, their glowing eyes fixed on Jack and Lyra as they were led inside, the weight of silence pressed on his chest, every step echoing like judgment. The eldest elder raised his staff, his voice sharp. Human, your actions stir unrest. You defeat Corin. You speak truths that weaken the old ways. You turn guards and crowds with words instead of blades. But now the council demands final proof. Either you accept the bond and complete the ceremony, or you reject it and face the punishment of exile and blood. Jack stiffened, his throat dry. He had expected this, but hearing it spoken crushed him like stone. Lyra's grip on his arm tightened, her voice barely a whisper. Jack, if you refuse, they will not only punish you, they will destroy me too. They will say I am cursed for choosing you. The council murmured, their voices rising, some in support of the bond, others in anger. Lord Varen stood at the edge, his black robes heavy as his voice dripped with venom. He is no mate. He is no leader. He is a spark of chaos. Crush him now before his fire spreads. Jack raised his voice, anger breaking through. I never asked for this bond. I never wanted to be part of your politics. I only wanted peace. I only wanted to explore the stars. His words echoed, but no one looked away. The eldest leaned forward, his face carved with age. You cannot run, human, for even in silence your actions echo. You shared food. You fought for her. You spoke truth. You inspired the weak, whether you wish it or not. You are now woven into Vera, and only choice remains. Complete the bond or break it in blood. Jack's chest heaved. He felt trapped like an animal. Lyra's eyes searched his face, her voice trembling. Jack, I will not bind you if you do not wish it. I do not want chains around you, but if you walk away now, my people will burn for it. He turned to her, his voice raw. Why do they make everything a prison? Why does kindness become a vow? Why does truth become a weapon? Lyra's lips trembled. Because they have forgotten how to choose, because for centuries bonds were forced, not embraced, and now they fear choice more than death. Jack closed his eyes, flashes of earth filling his mind, the laughter of strangers, the warmth of shared meals, the feeling of freedom in every step he once took. And now here he stood, demanded to bind forever or be killed. His heart pounded, he opened his eyes, his voice steady. If you want me to complete this bond, then it will not be by force. It will not be by fear. It will only be by choice, both mine and hers. And if that is not enough, then kill me now. Gasps filled the chamber. The elders shifted, their glowing eyes flaring. Varen snarled, "Arrogant human, your words mean nothing." But the eldest raised his staff sharply, silencing him. His words mean everything, for they cut deeper than any blade. He speaks of choice, something we abandoned long ago. Lyra's eyes filled with tears, her voice breaking. "Jack, you give me a choice no one ever gave before, and I choose you. Not because of vows, not because of law, but because of what you are, because you protect, because you care, because you are human." The chamber erupted in cries, some in outrage, others in wonder. Jack felt her words strike his soul harder than any trial. His throat tightened. For the first time it felt real, not tradition, not force, but something fragile and true. The eldest elder stood, raising both hands. His voice thundered, "Then let it be written, the bond of human and Varen shall not be of force but of choice. Let it be remembered that on this day a new path was born." The crowd outside roared as the words were carried through the city, but Varen's face twisted with fury, his voice low but venomous. "You may think you win today, human, but choice breeds rebellion, rebellion breeds war, and when war comes, your compassion will drown in blood." Jack met his glare, his voice calm. Or maybe compassion will stop it before it begins. Lyra squeezed his hand, the weight of her people. In his own heart heavy between them, they had broken the old rule, but breaking rules came with a price, and Jack knew the storm Varen promised was already on the horizon, the final vow. The twin suns of Vera rose high, casting their light over a city that no longer felt the same. The people whispered in the streets, some with hope, some with fear. The words of the human had spread like fire, choice instead of chains, freedom instead of force. Jack stood beside Lyra in the great council chamber, his body still sore from battle, his heart heavy with doubt, yet his spirit stronger than ever. Lyra's hand rested lightly in his, her silver eyes filled with quiet strength. The eldest elder raised his staff. "Today we seal the bond of choice, and let all who witness remember it." But before the words could settle, the chamber doors burst open. Lord Varen entered with an army of armored warriors, their spears glowing, their footsteps shaking the crystal floor. His voice roared, "No, I will not let the old ways die. I will not let this outsider poison us. Today we end him. Today we end her." The council gasped. Guards rushed forward but were cut down by Varen's soldiers. The chamber filled with chaos. Lyra pulled Jack close, her voice trembling. "Jack, they will kill us both." Jack's heart pounded. Fear surged through him, but he forced himself to stand tall. He shouted above the noise, "Varen, you claim strength, you claim loyalty to the old ways, but you fear words, you fear choice. If you truly believe I am weak, then face me, not with armies, not with law. Face me here, alone." The chamber froze. All eyes turned to Varen. The great lord sneered, rage burning in his glowing eyes. "You dare challenge me, human?" Jack's voice shook but carried. "Yes, because if you kill me with your army, it proves you fear me. But if you fight me alone, then you prove your honor." "That," Jack whispered back. "I don't need to be stronger. I just need to show them a different way." Varen growled, throwing off his cloak, his body clad in dark crystal armor. He stepped into the circle, his spear gleaming. Jack stepped forward with nothing but empty hands. The crowd fell silent. The duel began. Varen struck with brutal force. Jack dodged, barely escaping death. Each strike cracked the crystal floor. Jack stumbled. his body weak, but his mind raced. He remembered the arena, remembered how human cunning could turn strength into weakness. He shouted as he dodged another blow. "You fight to destroy, but humans fight to protect. That is why I will not fall." Veyron roared, lunging forward. Jack grabbed a shard of broken crystal from the floor, not as a weapon, but as a mirror. He lifted it high. The twin suns caught its edge, blinding Veyron for a moment. Jack seized the chance, using his own body weight to push Veyron toward the fissures in the floor. The ground cracked, light bursting beneath them. Veyron staggered, rage twisting his face. Jack shouted to the council, his voice raw. "Look at him. He fights for power. I fight to live. I fight to protect. And that is the difference." With one last desperate move, Jack used Veyron's charge against him, stepping aside. Veyron's spear plunged into the glowing crack. The floor erupted with light. The shockwave hurled Veyron backward, his armor shattering. He fell to his knees, defeated. The chamber erupted. Some screamed in shock. Others cheered. Jack stood shaking, barely able to breathe. Lyra ran to him, catching him before he collapsed, her voice breaking. "You did it, Jack! You showed them!" The eldest elder raised his staff high, his voice thundered. "The human has proven his vow, not by force, not by blood, but by choice and by courage. Let it be known that from this day forward, bonds shall be chosen, not find so. Ijoku, Orchid, and Vera shall never return to chains." The people roared, the sound rolling like a storm through the city. Jack's body trembled, but in his chest he felt something new, not just survival, but belonging. Lyra held him close, her silver eyes glowing with both tears and pride. Veyron was dragged away, his voice spitting venom. "You think you win, human, but choice brings change, and change brings war." Jack looked at him, his voice calm though his body shook. "Then let it come, because I would rather face war with freedom than live in peace with chains." The chamber fell silent at those words, the people bowing their heads, the elders lowering their staffs. Lyra whispered to him softly, her words like a promise. "On my world, food meant marriage. But today, you gave us something greater. You gave us freedom." Jack closed his eyes, exhaustion finally taking him. But in his heart he knew the truth. He had come to Vyra as a lost traveler. But he would leave as more than that. He would leave as a symbol of what it meant to be human. And so the story of the human who shared food became legend, not because of a mistake, but because in that mistake he had found courage, love, and a vow that would echo across stars. The end. Enjoyed the story? Like it and subscribe for more.